Well, we're finally going to talk about what this whole set's about, and a lot of my life's been about. It's motion picture.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I've been kind of curious about that. I know we had mentioned it just briefly from time to time about different things about it. And I know you wear a lot of hats. I know you know all his trades, you know, electrical, plumbing, whatever. You're a very good chef, and I know you make good movies. But that's one thing I don't have a hat for. I don't know anything about it. So I was asking you some questions the other day, and I'd like for you to, if you don't mind, to answer a few of them, if you will. How do you know how to get into movies, or what do you do to get into the movies? How do you know that that's in your wheelhouse, if you will?
You have to love movies. If you're getting into movies to make money, or you're getting into movies to be famous, get out. Get out. You're going to be miserable. Probably won't happen. Go get into banking, be a stockbroker, do something else. The passion has to be there. So let's say it's like in building. Without the foundation being proper, anything you build on top of it will crumble.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that foundation being the love of cinema, the love of motion picture, the love of movies. That's a basis. Now, it doesn't mean that money won't come, but that has to be there first. You have to, when you walked into the first theater and you seen that picture, it had to transform you. It had to hit receptors in your brain that may have not been hit before, going, oh my God, this is something. I mean, it's a 50-foot screen. These people are giants. It's larger than life. And then, of course, the cinematic rollout. And to me, it's the equation of how cinema reflects human life and how much we can learn from it. And we run the Myrtle Beach International Film Festival, which is a globally recognized competition film festival, which is different. It's a competition film festival. And the lens of the filmmaker, the eye, what they call the eye of the beholder, is different in different countries. So what we see as a certain perspective, another country sees completely different. And so it's interesting to get a grasp of a different perspective in life. So it's much like we're raised here in the United States with big automobiles, big roads, big and expanding. We're forever expanding. When I worked at the European Union, you realize that England has expanded as far as it can expand, unless they start to break down some of the laws and allow development, which I don't think they'll do. So if you want to move out and buy some land in the middle of Wyoming, just barren land, you can do it. You can go build your farm, do whatever you want. You can't do that there. So our mindset, as we've grown up here for generations, our mindset's different than the Europeans as far as expansion. We're continually expanding people. They are not. They have to work inside of an infrastructure that's been built 1,000 or more years ago. And so it's a different mindset. So seeing perspectives from those two different mindsets, you can come up with even a different conclusion than just American or European. You can come up with a mixture or see things from two different perspectives, kind of like 3D.
Yeah.
But so if it's about money or fame, stay out of it. You're going to be miserable. Those are a byproduct, much like when you manufacture something in a factory and you get a byproduct, and then that becomes useful. Kind of like, I forget what it was that made that ended up becoming rat poison, which ended up becoming blood thinners.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it was a byproduct. I think it was aluminum smelting, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
That was a roll-off, which now is in the medical industry. So when people just look at the medical industry, it's like, oh, you created this blood thinner. It's like, no. First it was rat poisoning. And then first before that, it was a byproduct of aluminum smelting or something like, I don't know what it was. Money and fame is a byproduct of the making of the movie. If you have that love in your heart of film and cinema and the passion, that's a byproduct. It may come, it may not. It doesn't matter to you.
No.
As long as you're making those movies.
No. Do you have to change your psychology or your makeup, if you will, how you were raised, what you were born, in order to go in one direction for a genre, a different genres of movies, or once the director associates his movies with one genre, can he change? I mean, how does he do that psychologically?
A lot of filmmakers, a lot of directors can change. the ones who stick in certain genres are a lot of the horror filmmakers. Horror filmmakers are usually a breed of their own, but they can jump over to drama, comedy if they want to, but they're kind of usually out here on their own. It's a different psychology of filmmaking. It's a different genre. Like you said, it hits a different a demographic of society. Comedy and drama over here. Epic filmmakers are sometimes different. Where I thought you were going to go was like, well, you're building the studio out now, which has been a 4-year process so far. Heather and I constantly talk. We have to go from movie mind to building mind. And it is a hard switch. Like when the film festival starts gearing up, which is gearing up now, those are two different arenas in the brain.
Oh, absolutely.
Left hemisphere and right hemisphere. You're not working strictly off logic with film. There's a lot of artistic concepts. So you have to use both sides of your brain because of the business side, but also the artistic side. But when we shot a Carolina Christmas, I forget what we were doing before that. It was something outside of film just for a little bit. And it's like we had to stop that and almost retool the brain to make the movie.
Yeah. And
so when the studio's done being built, we've already discussed this. Like, what do we do? We're going to have to take a week or 2 or 3 off, do something. Maybe we'll go out to Hollywood and spend some time and see some people that I knew and stuff, hang out at studios or something, right? But gearing back up for that is going to be a different side of operations other than construction, which what we've been doing.
Yeah, I thought it would have to be. Yeah.
It's like going forward and reverse. You know, the transmission, you can go through gear 1, 2, 3 and drive, or just reverse. It's as statically resistant as going forward and reverse.
I gotcha.
And so, but as far as like what you grow up with, well, I think that when you grow up, a lot of times we meet filmmakers at the film festival that are trying to move their way up the ladder. So they want to make sure and say everything right when I'm talking to them on a set or something like that. We're interviewing them, and there seems to be a hesitation to tell me that they were a dishwasher for 10 years, or they worked construction for 5 years, or a truck driver. I said, don't ever ignore those things. That's what brings the richness and quality of the film out that the audience is going to identify with. I would be more reluctant to say I'm a trust fund kid. I went to all the fine schools, never really experienced work or hard life. I would be more reluctant to say that because your films are, I wouldn't say they're going to, but more than likely they're going to kind of have a flatness to them.
Yeah.
Because they have nothing to pull from. No hardships to pull from. I had a hardship once. I didn't get the bubble gum I wanted. No. We're talking about real hardships. Some of the movies that come from Asia or Russia were, hey, in our timeline, people were starving to death. They got something to pull from, some real grit to pull from, and it shows in the movies.
No.
It pulls those heartstrings. Where if you're faking something, you can't.
You can see it.
Yeah, you can see it.
It is just as bright as a light, man.
Have you ever walked into a room? I know you have, but I'm going to ask you this: have you ever walked into a room completely pissed off and ready to tear anybody apart who has any? Because you've had it.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever gone in kind of like, well, I'm a little upset about this, but it's not a big deal. Does the room treat you 2 different ways?
It will.
It knows when you've had it. It's kind of like when the animal comes in that's had it, like a dog or a cat, and it's ready to tear everybody apart. Everybody kind of like looks at it, right? I always say it's like Mike Tyson sitting across from you. You're going to pay more attention, right? You don't know if he's going to come flying across the table at you if you piss him off. Those things, and that's why I tell people, don't ever hesitate in telling people or letting that come out in you, the hardships of life, because that's what gives you that grit. That's when people take you very seriously, is when you've had enough or when you're coming from a real perspective. And you can tell the fake ones too.
Oh, yeah.
We can tell when we get films in, which are a lot of them anymore, political agenda films.
Yeah.
They should be in the political arena. They should not be making films because the agenda shows right through. It's like, hey, let's make a movie about saving coffee tables. It comes through. Now, the big ones, the major 5, they can do things, but they're much better at it, and they got hundreds of millions of dollars to make a film to kind of cover a little bit of it up. But it's still in there, and I think that's the reason a lot of people anymore they don't go to the theater because they can't identify with anything on the screen.
Yeah, I got you.
Like you said, you grew up, your dad and mom worked hard, you did without a lot. So if you watched a movie that was in the 70s or 60s, 70s of a little kid growing up hard out on a tobacco farm or something, living as a sharecropper, you're going to immediately identify with that because maybe you weren't a sharecropper, but you knew someone who was, or you were close to it. It's going to hit some heartstrings.
No, absolutely.
And you're gonna immediately identify with that character. So I tell what we're lacking in the film world is the people who grew up without all the amenities. Much like you've told me you've grown up, or I grew up.
Yes,
I was picking fruit commercially at age 7. Those are the people who should be writing movies, not the trust fund kids. They don't have the experience to draw from. So if I could tell anything to the people who grew up harder or had some adversity in life, write those movies, because you're going to come out with a film that's going to inspire people and they're going to be able to identify with it. And those are the people we should be helping the most with film anyway.
Okay. I know there's a lot of facets to the making films. I know nothing about it. I know you and I have talked about how you set up a scene or for screens or whatever. You call them scrims for lights, and the camera angles, the different lighting, how many lumas the lights give off, and everything has its own special touch depending on what scene you want it to portray, what kind of feeling you want it to portray when they see that scene. Is that something you're born with, or is that something you have to develop over time?
I think you're born with. If you're born being able to read people, some are, some aren't. There's a term called Asperger's. I guess the people can be sitting there and they can be in a conversation pissing someone off and they don't even realize. I mean, they really don't realize it. They just keep saying the wrong thing over and over, and then it goes into blows or they just. It ruins a relationship because they really don't understand the effect that it's having by reading like eye movement, facial movement. If you're able to read that, I think that has a lot to do with the making of a film. Why? Here's an example. Just look at news. Okay. At one time, like to the average public, Fox and CNN were diametrically opposed to each other, right? To the average public.
Oh, yeah.
And let's go back to when President Trump and Hillary Clinton were running against each other. So if President Trump went on CNN, they would light him extremely harsh on one side. Then, just accidentally, we forgot to turn that light on. Nothing's an accident at that level. They forgot to turn a light on over here. And with President Trump on CNN, they'd set the camera not at eye level, but a little bit below. I mean, half an inch or an inch below. All at once, he's towering over you like an abusive parent, like an abusive big dad that's going to beat your ass.
Yeah.
And he's showing that on this side, which is what he shows to the public, he's bright and shiny. And on this side, he's got an extreme darkness in his mind. So the psychology of that rolls out. You see it much in that, what was the name of that opera? Phantom of the Opera, the white mask in the dark. Okay, same thing. So you have two different characters, an evil hidden one. Hillary goes on CNN. She's well lit. They do a halo light, so the top of the hair is glowing a little bit. That gives you the halo effect. And automatically, what do you
associate
with halo is Jesus or angels or saints, because they all have little halos, right? And so the halo light happens. You'll see this in Hallmark movies when the pretty girl comes on the scene, or the pretty girl that's not so pretty but she's close to being pretty. They'll say, she went to the big city and came back to the farm. When she comes down and the guy who's now chopping wood, is a billionaire but she don't know it, he thinks he's just a wood chop. The whole roll out of that. All at once you see this glow around her hair. Well, that's the halo light, and it's a beautiful effect. I use it, okay? It's a halo effect, and it makes her angelic. And so when you see her up on that big screen, she's an angel because, she's 30 feet high. She's 10 times, or 5 times my size. So she's an angel. And the dark light, now reverse it and say Hillary goes on Fox and President Trump goes on Fox. They'll light back in the day, they'd light President Trump fine, the halo. And Hillary, they may just slightly turn one down a little bit, right? And the camera angle. And at eye level, you have an authority. And when it's below you, when it's above you, that shows a childlike innocence, because you're having to look up, just much like a child does to an adult. Oh yeah, there's a lot about lighting and camera angles that can make or break something. Another one that's huge is the synchronized music with it. So I can have you saying something, and I can crank it down a frame or two and put something sinister on. I can leave it at the same frame rate and put strings on, like a string orchestra. I can make you sound sad. I can make you sound angry. I can, however, happy, depending on the sound score behind and the lighting and the camera angle. So you can. So when people, if people studied that in depth, they would realize how much they've been manipulated by the press, by news, because when I watch it, it's like, oh, it's just too much. It's right in your face, but you know it because you've seen this guy, much like a detective would. That's been on the job for 30 years and has heard it all. So
yeah, it's very, very intricate what you were just talking about. How just subtle changes make so much difference. You know, you don't realize it when you see it watching a movie. You're just taking it all in at one time, and you don't. Just like me, I love going to like a art studio and looking at beautiful art. I can stand there and look at a picture right on and see all the fine details in it, what it took to make it. But like making a movie, you have as many or more facets in that as you do making that picture. More facets, I'm sure. But, you know, it takes a very distinct eye to do that. Now, does the editor have any, does he give any directions, or is it the director that drives the music and the camera angles and all this, or how does that work?
Well, the director directs the scene. The actor's acting this and that. It's up to the DP, which is the director of photography, to do the camera angles. So you're bringing a team together, much like you're bringing a SEAL team together in the military. One's an explosives expert, one is an expert, one's a sniper, one's this, one's that. They can all do the basic things. They all know how to do the basic things, but their expertise in this area. Then you have a command leader, and that command leader will designate the improvised munitions or whatever they're getting ready to breach a door. That will be that person's job. The sniper's going to be running cover, this and that, and so they all work as a team. That's kind of weird to put it into military terms, but I'm a guy. But the same thing on a set. So the DP is responsible for the shots. Now the director will say, "Hey, we want this feel," and then it's up to the director. And the DP, and they'll choose certain DPs for different things. Like if you were to make Halloween, Michael or Friday the 13th, you might get a different DP, not because one's skilled better or they're just their style, than if you were to do a Hallmark movie. Those are two different maybe DPs. Not saying that they can't do each other's job, but when you're getting down to the nitty gritty, the director is the overall. It's kind of like he's the foreman, and then the editor has a lot to do, and the director will. And this has caused a lot of fights. Editors like to work alone. They're extremely, they're all artistic. I mean, extremely artistic in their passions, in their craft. But an editor, it'll drive them nuts if someone's looking over their shoulder. I know when I edit, I don't want anyone looking over my shoulder or just and waiting to say this or this when they don't understand editing. It's like you don't mind teaching someone, but don't stand over and tell me when to cut the, move one frame forward, because he or she is also putting a feel on the film. So all these people are massaging the film all the way through to make it, and when it works, and I like a symphony, we'll put this into a symphony or an orchestra, when everybody plays their part perfectly, you end up with a masterpiece. And so you cannot have any dissension inside this whole thing. Everybody has to be a team. So really no one becomes more important than the next person as far as the end product at the top level. Everybody has their jobs to do. But it is the director's job to direct the scene and the feel inside the scene. It's the DP's job to capture it on camera. And when you get on larger sets, the DP never focuses the camera. That's a camera assist and a second camera assist, and they'll do it remotely, and they'll have monitor people. I think you've seen Heather run the monitors from 100 feet away where we're shooting. Oh yeah, through the wireless feed. And so her job is to watch for anything coming into the scene that shouldn't be there. Whether it's someone's got a Coke can setting up in a window down there, or a Pepsi can or something, she'll catch that. A boom pole hanging through and a reflection of some light shade or something like that, she'll catch that. How it looked overall, she'll catch that. So it's a multitude of people working in a symphony. And when you get down to the small independent level where the one or two people do it all, you got to take your hat off, because that's someone building an entire house by themselves. Everything. And so you and it's best to start there.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like if you're going to become a chef, you start by washing dishes and cutting vegetables for a long time, and you work your way up so you know every step, and you can better manage that way.
Yeah. There's a lot of dynamics going on in this. I know some of the movies I've watched, at the end you see the credits roll. There'll be an enormous amount of people that it took to make some movies and not as many on other movies. What do you think the least amount of people? Well, I guess it would depend on the movie, the scenes, how many scenes is there, what it had to do with. There's a lot to do with how many people it would take to make a movie. What's the fewest amount of people you ever seen make a good movie?
That relies usually on budget.
Does it?
So if you don't have the money and you're passionate to make the movie, you'll do it by yourself.
Yeah.
And have I seen someone make a movie, a short by themselves that was good? Yes. Will it win an Oscar? Probably not. But it was good. So 3 to 5 people on the crew side. If you have 3 to 5 people, you're not going to make Iron Man. You're not going to make some big movie where there's like staged car accidents down the I-10 in Los Angeles with 5 people. You just can't do it. But a good drama, if you have 5 people, 3 to 5 people's better. If you have 5 people that know what they're doing, you have an efficient team. You can make Hallmark movies. You can make, when I say Hallmark, I'm not ragging on Hallmark. It's just the lack of special effects is what I mean by that. It's nothing wrong with the films. It's just no great deal, no 150-foot green screens, things like that. That takes other crews behind the scenes setting that up, and then their grips and the electricians and all this stuff. But 5 people, 3 to 5 people. If you have 3 good people, you can make a film, like an independent film, off 3 people. If you really want to do it, you do it with 1, but that's going to take you some time, and you're going to have a lot of headaches. You're going to go through a lot of bottles of Tylenol.
I think this is the 3rd year that's came up that you've been doing this since I've known you, the film festival. I guess looking at other people's work and how they convey their messages help you with yours, I would guess.
Yes.
Watching other movies, I would think would, me, whenever I'm doing something, if I see another carpenter's, whatever they built, I can take away from that and implement it into what I'm trying to do. And I guess the movies is the same way.
Absolutely. This is the 20th year for the film festival.
20th year.
Yeah. Man, so we've watched.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We've watched, I don't know, 5 figures worth of films. We're in 5 figures, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 films. One thing that I've noticed, because, I'm always watching people. I'm a people watcher. I'm a behavioral watcher, right? The best filmmakers that I've seen and that go on to do more, and they are the best, watch other people's work. The worst only watch their own. They barely skated into the festival. Like, what I mean that is like they were at the score level that barely got in. Not saying that it's a big feat because we get so many films in, so many good films, but the ones that score in the high 80s out of 100, sometimes they'll just watch their own work, or the people that score in the mid-90 or like 92 to 90, 93 and up, I've never seen one of them not watch other people's work. Because why? Because they're out of their ego. Their ego phase is over, or they don't have, which it takes, like when you're a good car, you have to see other people's work. You always picking up something. You're picking up an angle. You're picking up how this was done, how that was done. By watching the films from the foreign countries, like we got a lot of them this year from Bulgaria. I don't know why. It just every different years, different things, different years, different themes, and it's amazing how globally, everybody, all these filmmakers are a little bit connected on the types of films that are being made. This is globally. This isn't like regionally or country. Globally. This year, there's a lot of sexuality in this, which we haven't seen for the last 3 or 4 years. It's kind of been like just void, just blank. Now this year, it's like someone's cranked the knob. Someone went in there and flipped the switch and cranked the knob up, and it's like, where'd this come from? Because you got to remember, these films were made 6 months, a year ago, or whatever. So, but it's amazing across the world. There's like this energy that goes around it, going, "Hey, let's all make sad films. Hey, let's all make comedies. Let's all make this." And it's kind of a weird energy. I believe in energy, and I think that your pineal gland is a transmitter and responder. So when you have highly artistic people, their transmitters and receivers are working extremely well.
Yeah, on the same wavelength.
Yeah, and so it shoots it out, and I guess there's something that goes out. It's like, hey, let's make these, but but I've noticed the people who watch others work end up making better films. Well, you're learning.
Absolutely.
I've never stopped learning.
No. And I never want to.
In fact, it becomes a problem. It makes me not sleep. You crave knowledge. And now with the internet, it used to be you had to go to the library and get a book or Encyclopedia Britannicas and all, or you had to find someone in the industry. So we have so much information at our fingertips now. The world is at our fingertips. When someone says to me, hey, how do I change, just making something up, how do I change this tire? Did you ever think about just going to YouTube? Because there'll be a 500,000 videos on how to change a tire. And so the information's there to see how to do it.
Oh.
And we really live in a gilded age for information. It's the information age to where we can find things and do what we want. But yeah, watching others work is, and we're always watching. You know, when my daughter was young, I always said, always be aware that the people who are the doers in life, the go-getters, the people who think a little more, remember, they're always watching you. They're always sitting back watching. They're watching reactions. They're watching how you handle things, what you do. At the beginning, when you'd mentioned about getting into film, show up early, stay late, and don't complain. That's the foundation.
Yeah.
Once you do that, then you'll if you're intelligent and you've got motor skills, you'll learn the skill. Whether it's a boom pole operator, lighting technician, grip, gaffer, whatever field you want to go into. And if people in construction ever want to go and transfer over into film, I would highly recommend that. Like if you're a mill worker, trim carpenter, you can make sets. You can build sets for movies.
Yeah.
And now you're in the movie business. You're just a set builder. Yeah. And you get all the benefits of being in the movies.
I think every trade should have that mindset, though. Show up early, stay late, and don't complain.
Yeah.
Once you sign the contract, or even if it's a verbal contract, if I work for you $1 an hour, I need to show up on time. I need to stay my time, and I need to not complain. That was our contract, you know.
Right.
Not today's society. No.
Oh no. It's hard. Well, you know, because you've been around while we build this studio out. And you'll see this just mainly Heather and I. You've come in and helped, and I appreciate that. But we hate to bother you because you're working all the time. So it's like you have a guilt of asking someone, "Hey, man, you just worked 11 hours. You want to come help me too?" No, it's like no, you have a guilt of that. But you'll notice that we've gone through a few. I try to operate as a perfection level, whether it was in pastry, film, building. You've heard me say it. No, good enough's not good. It's got to be just right.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's helped in film too, because you can tell a film that doesn't have that aspect behind us. Like this has got to be just right.
Yeah, the aspect and the passion, passion for what you're trying to convey to the public.
Right.
Absolutely, yes, sir. Well, I do appreciate you filling me in. I'm sure I'll have a lot more questions in the future, but.
Hey, the other night you'd mentioned we had a great conversation when I was coming back from Charlotte. You said you'd like to write films, and you said, but you're not. You never went to school for it.
I have no idea how to even start. You just grab a piece of paper and go at it.
Well, I'd use a computer because the paper that gets your fingers sore. You know what I mean? They start to hurt.
Yeah, do you have one of those?
Yeah. And you don't have to have a like Final Draft script writer. You go on once again. Go to Google. New Times Roman, this, indentions and all this, and you'll figure out real quick it's just a pattern that's used, and filling out the detail of the scene. And then it's up to the DP and the director and the DP and all that, and the creatives to come up with the shot. You just get, like, hey, it was I think we'd mentioned you were talking about like a horror film, an abandoned factory on the outskirts of Detroit. It's wintertime. It's 0 degrees, it's dark, it's cold, the place is dank, it's wet, it hasn't been used for 20 years. Then the creatives come in when they go to do the movie, and you start having pre-production meetings. That's when all that's found through location scouts, and then you find the place that matches, and you have to maybe set the scene up with prop masters or whatever. And so you don't go into great detail like a book. It's the dialogue that matters. This between Bob and Jim and Sally and Sue, it's the dialogue that matters between them. Yeah. And that's where the real craft comes in. But you pull from those experiences of life. Don't ever, I want everybody out there, don't ever think that you can't write a movie. You can. You just pull from your experiences and pull from life. Just sit back and watch. Yeah. And so you make the movie in your head and you just write it. And sometimes if I'm writing a script, the movie starts to play and I got to keep up. And it's hard to shut down because you don't know if you can get that movie playing again the next day.
I got you.
So you keep writing and writing and writing and writing. But the movie's playing and you have to slow the movie down to keep up. Yeah. Typing. And some of the scripts that I've written have unfolded as I'm writing. It's not like I've got the end figured. You kind of have the end figured out, but how did you get from point A to point Z? Yeah.
You kind of have to narrate, I guess, where you're at, what kind of scene you're looking at while this is going on.
Right.
And that changes with every location, every whatever.
The movie industry is going through a massive change. You have your legacy medias like Paramount, Universal, the big ones, the big five, but we'll call them the captains. But the sergeants are what's changing massively because YouTube's the largest network in the world. It dwarfs everything else. The amount of content being put up. You don't realize you can make a movie, and you say, well, how do I get paid? Well, if you get millions of views on the movie and you've monetized your channel, you'll get paid through that. So you just make a damn good movie that resonates with people, and quit making the political agenda movies. I'm sick of them. Oh yeah, I am so. You know why? Because you're watching a good story, and then all at once there's an agenda comes flying in, and it's like, oh come on, I was so into this, and when I say a political agenda, we all have all the movies that are written have some sort of. There's conflict is what makes a good movie. I'm not talking, even in comedy, it's the conflict. It's the misinterpretation of something at a family reunion or something that causes a spark. It's the comedy, right? Or the conflict. We draw from that conflict in our own personal worlds and where they come from and how they happen and this and that. Now that can have to do with difference of opinions. But then when a movie's been made to go, we're going to make this look good and they're going to make this look bad, and it's a political agenda. Oh, yeah. And it's not like they're making murder look bad and non-murder make look good. This is things that are like people they disagree with on heavily. They didn't make it from the love of their heart or from their soul, or this is a story that needs to be told. It's like, we're going to drive this home. We're going to shove it down your throat. We're going to drive it home, and it's so tiring.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be.
And it's like the villains. There's plenty of villains in life, right? You don't have to use the same villain for every movie. You can switch it up. In fact, some of the creepiest. You said you like a good suspense horror film. I've watched some horror films. I'm not like an aficionado or a massive enthusiast, but I'll watch them, and I've watched some of them, and some of them are really like Hostel was one. That was a great concept, good movie, and it could take you to those edges that you didn't feel comfortable in, which is what it's supposed to do. But one of the freakiest ones, talking about a villain, usually like the James Bond villain, he's missing an eye, or it's like glazed over because he's had a scar coming down the side of his face, and he's rough looking, he's got gold teeth on one side, all this stuff, right? Oh, yeah. This was I don't know, it was Japanese, I think. Japanese girl, she's like 16. Of course, a 16-year-old there looks like they're like 12, or 18-year-old, something like that. But she went to an audition. I think it's called The Audition. And it's because you're sitting there looking at a girl that looks like, I don't know, mid-teens, delicate face, and just like, hey, she's going to go play kickball or something. And it's like the villain in that film.
Oh, she's like the villain?
Yes. Yeah, and that's a spoiler alert. So if you don't, yeah, she's the villain. She ends up capturing someone and cuts off. I don't know. I won't say it. But it's the thing is, it takes it to a new level because it's not. You didn't dig Hitler up out of the ground and make him the villain again. It's like, how many times is that? Yeah, he was a villain, but So was Stalin. So was Mao. So was this.
Oh, yeah.
So was Jeffrey Dahmer. So was all these other people. Let's make some movies about some different things that like send you into an arena that throws your mind and is like, whoa, I never thought of that. The freakiest horror movies to me are the ones that are realistic. Like, oh, that could happen.
Yeah. There was one movie I really enjoyed, and that was The Sixth Sense. The reason for that is I didn't see the end. The end, I didn't see it coming the whole movie. Generally, you can kind of see what's going to happen. You can kind of tell what's going to happen. But I didn't see that until the very end.
That's good filmmaking
and
good writing.
It is.
What is your favorite movie of all time?
That's it.
The Sixth Sense?
The Sixth Sense.
Now, you mentioned one the other day was...
When a Stranger Calls.
Yes.
Yeah, that was back in the probably late 70s, I think. But it was about a babysitter, and but it's When a Stranger Calls.
Is that when someone's calling from inside the house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they're inside the house.
That didn't have, well, no, Jennifer Love Hewitt wouldn't have been born then. She was in a lot of them.
I wouldn't even dream of naming names because I don't remember. It's been so long. Yeah,
is that your favorite genre? Suspense?
No, I don't know. It may be. I don't know.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth. I would think so, yeah. Something to get me thinking, to try to get me to see what's going on in the movie, you know. I like a surprise. Yeah. I don't like to be able to predict what's going to happen at the end of the movie.
Right.
Like these general shows that some people watch. Every one of them, you have a murder in the beginning, then they solve the case at the end, you know. It's the same thing, these TV shows. I never watch anything like that.
You mean like 60 Minutes or
CSI,
48 hours? Scripted.
Something, scripted stuff. And it's the same thing every time. Just pretty much, you know, pretty much.
I'll start watching some of those like 48 hours, the news documentary programs.
The real documentaries is okay.
Holy moly, some of the things that people do.
Yeah.
You don't need to make up fiction. Mm-hmm. It just take the real stories of what people have done to one another. There was one on a couple nights ago. What I'll do is I'll turn on something when I'm done for the night, sit in a chair, and I'll fall asleep and wake up. Mm-hmm. And what it's done is this flip to the next video that you just keeps flipping to a new video, and you wake up, it's like, what's this? And it's like, you sit there and watch it, you start to watch it, it's like, what the hell's going on? You know, what the hell's going on in your neighbor's house or down the street or whatever? It's like bizarre stuff, you know? And so I remember when we was doing the Film Institute, talking about films, and a lot of times people you can there's better stories in reality than even have to come up with one. You can take a movie or you can take one from reality and you can amp it up just a little bit, like add 5% for theatrics or cinematics. But there was one that I always said, if I was ever going to make a short, they're like a 20-minute short or something like that, which I will usually just make a feature film, then you put it out in theaters, right? Mm-hmm. There was a story that came out when I was doing the festival. It's never left me because of the dynamics of it. You can picture this. And this is a real story that I think it happened in Texas. So a man and a woman, they're no longer sleeping together. It's been 2 or 3 years. The man, you're probably on the verge of divorce. I don't know what's going on, but there's this strife between them. So the man goes and hires a prostitute one night. And he goes on the outside of town. This is a real story. Goes and hires a prostitute on the outside of town in one of these shady little hotels. Who walks in as the prostitute? His wife.
And that's a real story?
So that's a real story. And I was like, the dynamics. Because she's going to unleash, what the hell are you doing hiring a prostitute? And I said, what the hell are you doing being one? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the dynamics, and then how do you end that script? How would you end? And I don't know how it ended. But they're going to both blame each other. And how do you end that one? What would the dynamics be in that fight, in that confrontation, the conflict? It would be massive conflict. One of the ones we had at the film festival was excellent, and it was going on to become a series. It was called A Gun in a Hotel Bible. And a guy comes in to check. It's like in Chicago, like the Drake or something, hotel, like old fancy hotel. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether that was it or not, but it was one of them old hotels downtown. He comes in to check in, and he's got a gun, and there's the Bible laying there, that like the what do you call it, the Gideons? Mm-hmm. The Gideons Bible's laying there. And he's waiting because his wife's having an affair, and he knows what room she's going into with the guy, and it's right down the hallway from him. So when they either go in or come out, he's going to shoot him, kill him. Mm. So he cracks open the Bible while he's waiting, and all at once this figure appears across the way, and it's a representation of God. It's a man, mm-hmm. And so he becomes what's being read in the Bible. While this guy, and they have a confrontation of like, why he shouldn't do it, and the guy's like, why shouldn't I do it? You say right here in the Old Testament, and he said yes, but the New Testament, he said, but you state in the Old Testament, eye for an eye, and this and this and that and that, mm-hmm. and so it was a extremely well written on two different perspectives, and in the end, you kind of seen it about 2 or 3 minutes before the end, but most people, I seen a little bit, but I wasn't 100% sure how the ending happened, because he does confront the man and the woman, because he slams the door, and the guy that plays the Bible can't leave the room. So it was going to be a web series. Yeah. So every time when people are coming in, they're going to deal with something either good or bad, but it's going to be with the guy that is representative of God in the Bible. Mm-hmm. And so the interaction, the conflict. I thought it was really cool. It was really well written, but I never seen anything beyond that. But I think it won Best Web Series that year. Those are the things that make people think. It's not a, and because you can understand both sides of the argument from a human perspective. Yeah, you get why the guy's pissed, and you get what this person over here is saying too. But and then whose side do you kind of lean towards? Oh yeah. But it was really, really well written and really well done. Those are a lot of the films from around the world. They're not as political. The United States films have become extremely political agendicized. They got to throw it in, right? It just can't be a script, a movie, this and that. It's got to be thrown in. Oh yeah. And there's indicators of that when you first start watching. It's like, I'll bet this is going to go there. Within 10 to 30 seconds, you kind of know this is an agenda, or kind of. The films that are made in different parts of the world, especially the places that have been impoverished for a while, they don't have that in it. Oh. It's a story, and it's a story of hardship, or it's a story of betrayal, or a story of triumph. But it doesn't have the political agenda in it, because they're trying to tell a story from almost losing their life through starvation or whatever, where here they're telling a story where, because the last 3 generations they've been wealthy and living off a trust fund, the depth isn't there. Oh yeah. We've had some extremely hard-hitting films from like the Middle East, and the way they see things and the way we see things is completely different. In like relationships and all that. Asia, a lot of films that come from not so much Japan, but areas that have been impoverished more. China, Korea, Vietnam, over the last, they weren't that well off 50 years ago. And so you get these heartfelt stories, sacrifice, the father and mother working in a rice field to put their kid through, it's just, all, and they go and work all through the night and all through the day, and they kill themselves to make sure that their kid can get out of the position. We went out to Los Angeles. I always thought a good thing too would be, I'll give all my ideas away, but if someone wants to make this, we'd like to see it. Just follow around 4 Uber drivers, especially in Los Angeles, because you have such a diverse crew there of people. We were staying in the Hollywood Sunset Hills, and we were going over to some people's house we knew, and we're going to have some drinks. So I left my car and we got an Uber or a Lyft, I'm sorry. But a guy shows up. He's an Asian guy, probably our age, right? And 30 or 40 minute ride. So he says, you want to listen to music? I said, well, I'd like, what's going on? I mean, you're up in the hills of Hollywood and all in Sunset Hills. Hollywood Hills and Sunset Hills are attached. It goes Hollywood Hills, Sunset Hills, Beverly Hills. And it's where a lot of old stars lived. He starts telling us he's from Bakersfield, which is out in the desert. It's an agricultural area. And he has a full-time job there, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I don't know what he works in. His son, he's trying to put through medical school. So he comes over to Los Angeles and drives Uber on the weekend, and then sends that money to help his kid get through college, because he said his kid was working a job, and he said he doesn't want him working a job because he's got to get through medical school, and at the level where he was going into, where he's getting his PhD, he's got to stay focused. And he said he said, so I'll do whatever. And I said, so what's your day like? And so he would go over there and he would spend 36 to 48 hours and he'd sleep in his car in between calls. Man. In wherever. And usually, if you know anything about Los Angeles, you got to pay to park everywhere. So he has to find this parking spot way out, and then he gets called and comes back. But his story it was the undying love for his son to do better. And this other fellow was either first generation or I don't know if he was born in the United States or was a little kid when he moved here. Now he's in his 50s. He's literally killing himself to make sure his son has a better life.
So
he's destroying himself.
Make a good movie.
Yeah. It's a good story.
Yeah, it's a good story.
And so I thought, well, we were up in Charlotte one time. Once again, we was going up there. We did some things and stayed somewhere. And I think Heather took me up there for my birthday. And we stayed at the Duke Mansion. Not Duke's Mayonnaise, but Duke Power Company. Duke. They had their old house they turned into an Airbnb. It's pretty cool. And we were going somewhere. We were going to have a few drinks. And so got an Uber. And the guy keeps going like this, and he had a ball in his hand. It's like, I got to ask you, what's the deal with the ball? He said, I'm the Miss Pac-Man World's Champion, and I constantly practice. And he rubs the ball like the ball on the joystick. And went back and looked up, and sure enough, he's the world's champion Miss Pac-Man player. And so, but he was a black guy. This other guy's an Asian guy. Then we came across a white guy and a white girl. So 4 stories right there. Nothing to do with political agendas, nothing. It's the story of life and their life. And those to me is what that's the importance of cinema. So you could really take, especially you could take the guy with the Miss Pac-Man, but I think the Asian guy that was from Bakersfield that went into Beverly Hills to drive it, you could probably make his story the most heartfelt because, hey, it's no different. You've seen it in the construction trades. Men kill themselves. Oh, yeah. Every day they're killing themselves. And the people back at home, I don't know whether they realize it or not, but when you work hard construction, you're killing yourself.
Yeah. Well, if you do it right, they never know. You don't go home and you don't complain. You just do your day's work.
But you'd have to see it.
Yeah, you see
when you go to get up,
slowly,
grimace on the face and this and that.
Well, that's
and
when they just
can't
say,
tie your
look at
shoes
the old
anymore.
Man. The old man can't hardly get up. They don't understand why sometimes.
Right.
But yeah.
But it's okay. So there's a story we all know about a mother's sacrifice, but rarely do you ever see a film about a father's sacrifice. And it's there. Yeah. And a man will do it with a smile on their face as long as they know the person receiving the benefit is grateful.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's in our DNA.
I heard it said the only man that wants you to succeed and be a better man than him in life is your father.
Right.
Yeah, and I believe that. I want my boys to be better than I ever was.
Right. Yeah. Well, I remember you said something. Where your son's in the military, he was stationed in Poland, and you can tell when someone's BS and when they're not. And you looked dead in my eyes. You said he wanted to come home. Things were heating up, but you looked at me and you said, I'll gladly trade places with him right now.
I will. Yes, sir.
And so that's the movie stuff that they're not writing. They don't write that story. You know what I mean? That's why half the people no longer go to the theater. That's why that's why people are tuning out of it. You got to make all kinds of movies, but there has to be an equal distribution of shared pain in the movies. And I go back to that political agenda stuff. There's a script and a narrative that if you don't follow, your movie won't get into Netflix. You won't get in here. You won't get in there. And it's like, well, we got to build a new avenue for it. And people, once they start seeing those films, if someone would make a documentary about, just following 4. And don't make it political. Just listen to their stories. Don't drive home. No. Just let them tell their stories.
Yeah.
If you want to make a point about anything, you're telling a point about hardship. Yeah. But don't over exaggerate it and don't make it up because you can tell real quick. But how I felt for that guy right there, the Asian guy in the car, I was like, hey, you are willing to go out and put the guillotine to your head so that your son has a better life, not just a normal life, a better life. That's love.
Yeah, you was talking about if they don't want to create that agenda or whatever you may have to create a different avenue to get the movie out. How many different avenues are there? I mean, how could you create another avenue?
Well, it's already there. It's called YouTube, but you have to be able to. There should be a consortium of people that are coming together to make these films, just like you can say the communists or the extreme. They have a consortium that they work inside of. They have a distribution agent. They have this. They have that. They need that on the side of people who are not making agenda films, just good quality cinema. And when people say, "Oh, we do that," no, some do, but they go right over and you start watching their content, and all at once it just goes haywire. And it's a political agenda. It's just something that's so unrealistic that it can't be believed, and so it pulls you out of the movie. I don't know whether it was you or someone else was talking about when we watch something, and it's just so unrealistic that you just kind of like, and you just back up and you go, I can't invest my emotions into this film into whatever's going on because it's an agenda. It's fake. Tell me the real story.
Yeah.
You know, I wish someone would make that documentary of following 4 Uber or Lyft drivers around and just telling their story. And please, you know, don't specifically search out someone that suits your agenda. Go let that person that just looks like an average person tell you their story and what's going on. Because people do have stories. I don't know if you've ever pulled up beside someone and wonder what's going on.
I have.
And you look at someone and you can tell, like in the eyes, like you go into a hospital and you look in a waiting room. I know that's kind of sad, but you go in there and what is that person going through right now? They're getting ready. Is their kid dying?
No.
They're getting ready to take their last breath. Or their husband, their wife, their mom, their dad, whatever. What's going on? Is it just something routine? You're going to be in and out. And you're going to be playing putt-putting at the beach tonight, or what is it? What is it? You know,
everybody has a story.
And there's these stories in life where your life changes in a nanosecond. You get the phone call.
No.
You used to work in fire and rescue.
Did.
Long time ago. You've showed up on those scenes where there's a phone call made after you've shown up. Someone's getting a phone call at home and their life's changed.
Oh, yeah.
Forever. And it was one incident. Maybe you shouldn't have went out on the road. Maybe you got in a fight and maybe it was a kid and the parent said, you're not going out tonight. No, I'm going and you're nothing you can do about it. And then boom. And it's over. Or something like that. It's just your life can change in a minute. And I think that stories need to represent those things. If we can get back, I hate to use the term, I've thought about using it, but I hate to use the term making cinema great again. Because of making America great again. But I honestly believe that.
I mean,
so making movies great again.
Yeah.
And if I could put something up on the when we open up the studio, it's getting closer. That's what it would be, is be making movies great. And it's not because of Donald Trump, President Trump using that, but it's a great saying. It's like, hey, I want to make classic. When I say classic film, it doesn't have to be with Humphrey Bogart but I want to make classic film that spans generations.
Yeah.
And it's not, and those are the films that are not politically driven.
Yeah, a little bit of wholesomeness to it, or whatever, something.
The good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent.
That's right.
But it's just life without being pushed into your face. It's just, this is life unfolding. And I think that, boy, it's hard to rally those crews to try to get that together. It really is, because Hollywood. You were talking about the movie business earlier. It's the most I don't know. I'd have to watch that, because there's certain agency things that take place that would be mind-boggling to most people.
Yeah.
In the movie business, it's a business that's not the most misunderstood. What people think it is on the first surface is nothing like what it is in reality. The people that want to go out, they're going to hit the streets, and we get phone calls from people all the time. They're movers and they're shakers and stuff, but you look in that, well, they haven't done anything yet. Well, that's fine. Maybe they are a mover and shaker. It's all most of it's BS.
Yeah.
And it's so, the people that dig in and just keep doing it. It's like when I don't know if I said this at the beginning, you're in the movie business when you make your living from it. I don't know if I said that. Okay. You're in how do you know you're in the movie business?
Yeah. I heard
when you
say
make,
that.
when you make your
right.
living from it.
That's right.
That's how you know. It's there's so many different aspects of what's seen on the surface and how it operates behind the scenes. And I'm not talking about the nefarious bad stuff and all that. I'm talking about just the industry itself. Like Hollywood, when I say Hollywood, it's Burbank, and it's not really in Hollywood anymore, but it's Burbank and Culver City and this and that. The Valley is 85% marketing, 15% filmmaking. Everybody thinks the most difficult part or the biggest part of making a movie is when you set up the cameras and they yell action and all this stuff. It's not. It comes before that, it comes after that, and the marketing. And that's where most movies fail. And that's why you have a marketing and distribution division inside Hollywood. And I always tell independent people it would be well advised to follow their model. If you give the average filmmaker $1 million, he'll blow 1.2 on the film, and you'll say, "What's your P&A? What'd you have left for P&A?" Well, it's just such a beautiful film. I could give a damn less how beautiful it is, because you ain't going to get it anywhere, and if you do, no one's going to know about it, because that screen's only going to give you a week at best, and then you're gone.
Man.
So you need to save 35% for P&A. Right off the bat, I don't care what your budget is, 35% for P&A. Do that. Then your odds of succeeding rise drastically. But hoping that Paramount's going to buy your film, well, I hope I'm going to win the lottery tonight too. I'm not saying it does happen, but it's going to be very rare. Fall on the side. Just watch. If for independent filmmakers, watch how Hollywood does it. Watch how they market a film. Watch how their P&A is spent. Do the same thing for yours, only on a smaller scale. And with social media now and grassroots efforts inside there's ways to make it. We put out 33 films in theaters. And our last one went to IMAX, everything.
Dalton Studios?
Yeah, Dalton Pictures.
Put that many out?
Yeah, we handled that many. Some of our own, but we handled that many.
Oh, gotcha.
Like I handled a Faye Dunaway movie, a William Hurt movie, some Tom Arnold movies, a Brittany Murphy movie that was very sad. She was on our red carpet in Beverly Hills a week or two before she passed away.
Oh man,
and sad, very sad, very sad. But so we've handled those movies, and I enjoy that. I enjoy the distribution part, because I've got both hemispheres firing at full RPM. You got your business side and your marketing and artistic side, so you can partake and work in that. But as moving forward, we'll still deal in the distribution side, because that's something that most people don't have. There's very few people that can go out and get films in theaters nationwide. I mean, I'm talking a handful or more. That's it. I'm not talking about the majors. They have theirs in place. They're plug and play. It's kind of like if you were a major manufacturer. Remember K-Tel back in the day when you were young?
Oh, yeah.
They were a major supplier. So they could get their place, back then it was Kmart and stuff like that. They could just get their products on shelves. So if you were a major manufacturer of parts or whatever you food, Pepsi Cola, Coca-Cola, you make the product and boom, it's got its place on the shelf already. Think of that as major Hollywood. So when they're making a big movie, they already know how many screens it's going out to, everything. That's all done. On the independent side, which is everything outside the five majors, you can still have a $200 million film and all the stars, but it's just outside the five majors. You have to have a distribution side that goes in and sells this to the theaters to put it in the screens, and you have to have the marketing plan and all that. You can't just show up and say it's a great movie.
Yeah.
They could care less. The people that's the distributing agent, the bookers, they're basically bookers for like a billboard. You got to show them how you're going to fill those seats, and it's not because my brother's in it and he's so popular and all that. No. How are you going to put 3,000 people in those seats through the week? And it's harder than what people think. And once they've done it, they realize. And then now you start to go nationwide. That's why the average P&A spend was like, I don't know, it was $45 or $50 million. That's how much they spend on marketing in a 6 to 12 week period.
Man, that is incredible.
So it takes some thought process to get it into theaters to make sure that these theaters get a return on renting that screen to you.
So there's 25 times what's going on behind the scenes than there are what's going on the screens. So
or maybe even more than that.
Yeah.
And in the distribution, the deals are constantly fluctuating. It's something that's hard to explain because it's a fluid negotiation. So like if when you were building, you go and you put a bid on, hey, I'm going to put your roof on or build you some cap for X amount of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And the movie business is constantly changing. So every day that it would change. And when you start building, it changes. Yeah. Or when you start putting the cabinets in, it's change. Well, it's raining today, so it's going to be a little less because it's sunshine. It's going to be more because I should be outside and all. But it's a little strange way to do it, but it's a constantly fluctuating thing that you have to figure out about screen sizes, movement, all this stuff. It's a very intense business.
Oh yeah.
But I love it. There's nothing like the film business. I've been in several businesses in my life, like genres, being from food and pastries and all that to building to movies, a few other little things on the side, but those are the main three. There is nothing like the movie business.
Is that right?
Oh, I waller in it. I've taken the hit. I've never done illegal drugs, but I took that drug. I shot myself up with movies. And I mean, once I got that injection, it's like, I got to have more. I got to have more.
Oh, yeah.
And if, hopefully when we do our next one, you'll be around. And we've had people come on that they never were interested in movies. We had a fellow come on that we did a big casting for our Christmas movie, and he came in with his daughter, and I'm like, he's got a good voice. And the way he's just talking on the microphone to me to get his daughter up there, it's like, I said, would you mind reading a script? He said, I'm not an actor. I said, just go read. He ended up becoming the lead for the movie.
Is that right?
And then once he did it, he said, I've taken the shot. I took the shot.
Man.
And he did 2 Amazon films and a couple others, and he went down there. He said, it is addicting. And he was a city manager, a head of economic development boards, but he went on. He said, Mo, once you do this,
that is something else.
And one thing about the movie business too, whether you talk to a neurosurgeon, whether you talk to a scientist, whether you talk to a school teacher, whether you talk to someone in McDonald's flipping the hamburgers, when they say, what do you do? So I'm in the motion picture business. And you say, we make motion pictures, building a studio. The childlike intrigue in every one of those, no matter who. I don't care whether, like I said, I don't care if it's a neurosurgeon. I don't care if it's a scientist. I don't care who it is. They're like, what, movies? They're that magical.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to live in that magical world when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'd get out of work from my old man, right? It's like it was easier, right? But had I been born in California, I'd have just snuck down to the studio and said, no, man, sorry, I already got a job. So,
yeah. It's hard to get out of that field.
Yeah, but once you
roof, whatever.
once you do, Heather, what do I always say? Better than what? Better than being on a roof.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's better than being on a roof.
I think I've heard you say that before.
Yeah, it's better than being on a roof. So one of the contracting jobs I did with the subcontractor for the military, I think it was the Air Force, I was a subcontractor. And they were like, oh, we're so sorry you're working so late. You know, you're here at 8 in the morning. You're here at like 10 at night. You're still working on this. I said, oh, this is easy. Compared to what I've done in my life, this is easy. I love it. And I love it. So where everyone else is bitching, wanting to go home, it's like, nah, just give me some food and let me eat, and I'll just keep going. I just need about 7 hours sleep. That's all. Yeah. But the movie industry is so exciting. Yeah. Well, so I'm really trying to. What we're doing with the studio, we're really tackling the world for change of bringing it back to where it's made for movies, about movies, not all the political agenda. We want to make beautiful films. We want to make films that make people laugh, that make them cry, that make them inspired, that make them understand life. And I think that's done through this artwork of tying the motion, all the paintings, 24 of them a second, and the sound synchronization and the acting. Yeah. You're bringing them all together to make magic. And when you're on set and you're shooting a scene that's very dynamic and it hits, you talk about an energy. Yeah, I've teared up before behind the damn camera. When I'm on the camera, when you see it, there was a confrontation between a mother and a daughter. It's like, that was so real. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now. I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but it was so real that you could feel it. And that's when beauty's happening.
That's pretty neat. It sure is. Well, we're looking forward to it.
Yes.
Maybe, do you have a timeline of when you may be able to start production here? I know you got a couple of rooms already finished.
Yes, we're working through it, but since the perfectionist in me and Heather and I, and then you come, I do ask you, but I hate it. It's like, I don't want to ask. It's because you're working, you know, and we're, believe it or not, we're no longer 25. So I can't do around the clock. And
Speak for yourself.
Say, oh, yeah, you're still 25. I'm not. And so, but I would say probably 9 months, 10 months, somewhere in there.
That's great.
So that means it's probably a year. So hopefully by the end of 2020, it was supposed to be by the end of 2024. We had some hiccups. Not that we didn't quit working, but we had some major hiccups of things happen, and then moved through that. And really, the building of the movie studio has been a movie all in itself. You know about some of it.
Yes, sir.
And so it's been a movie all in itself, which we've documented all the way through. We're going to do a little YouTube type channel for it of the building of it. But yeah, we want to get going. We do have one movie that we're going to do up front, and then possibly another one after that. And we'll start leasing the space out, getting some other productions in, things like that.
That's going to be exciting.
Oh, it is.
It is.
Just being in that field.
I'll help you be the carpenter. I'll help build some of the background on whatever.
The sets.
Yeah, sets.
Well, we've got we're going to have a whole shop for constructing sets.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat shop too.
Like
looks like one of the
1,800, 2,000 square foot.
Yes, sir.
All the tools, everything, and storing up foam now and all this and other thing, just different things in building 4, starting to put things away for it, props. We find props all the time. Heather's always scouring, like you go to the Goodwill or garage sales and you find old 1970s clothes, and that's hard to come by. In fact, the first movie we're going to do has once we get the studio open, the first out of this new studio. We did shoot some here for a Carolina Christmas, but this was building 1. It was done. So we'll be utilizing 2 and 3 stage. There's going to be a 70s and 80s scene in that. So we're starting to gather clothes here and there, because if you have to wait till the end, this comes from budgeting, but you have to wait till the end and you have to find 50 outfits, and you're buying it from a person who supplies the movie industry or a specialty warehouser, you might pay $100, $200 per outfit. Where now I can pick them up for $5. She picks them up for $4 or $5 or whatever. So when you see something cool, we pick it up. We got some cool big lapelled, flashy shirts.
Oh yeah,
from the 70s. Yeah, yeah, we got them. So it's going to be a fun movie. I've already talked to one person who said if they like the script, they'll do it, and it's a big name, and you'll know who they are, but I can't mention it right now. Yeah. But we'll talk about it off the show, but and they're going to be just perfect for the part if we can get all the timing done and all that. But really wanting to do something very different with movies, not different, make them classic again.
I got you.
Make beautiful cinema that really touch. You ever watch these old black and white movies that really, I mean, the acting's like unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
You notice the camera didn't move much. Now the camera's constantly moving. The camera didn't move much because the thought of the old Hollywood and the old movies, the actors were to do the work, not the camera. The camera's just supposed to capture it. Now they substitute bad acting for camera movement.
Oh yeah.
They substitute a car crash or car movement with flying cameras. Or in the 70s, they crashed hundreds of cars for a movie, right? For real. And so now the quick camera movement for fight scenes, this and that.
Oh man, yeah, it'll make you dizzy watching some of those fight scenes,
especially on a big screen. That's another thing I can tell people who want to get their film into a film festival. Don't have a shaky camera, because it's one thing watching it on an iPhone screen. It's another thing when it's up on a 55-foot screen and it's moving 4 feet every couple. It'll make people sick. Yeah, that movement. But yeah, so it is exciting. It keeps me going. It's something large in size, really.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
So yeah, well, you might be in it.
Oh no, maybe not.
You said you can roller skate.
Let's don't wish that on anybody.
You said you can roller skate.
I used to could roller skate.
That means you still can. It's like riding a bike.
Yeah, we'll give it a try if we have to. All right, it was good talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you.